I really love the outdoors. My parents love the outdoors, my relatives loved it too. Doing stuff outdoor, you could say, is really in my DNA, right? Many things can be in your DNA. Your risk for disease, your height, but sometimes people also say sports teams. Sometimes a politician or your favorite actor can be in your DNA.
But what does it really mean if we say something is in our DNA? And how does it affect our daily life?
Hi, my name is Adriaan.
And I'm Tabea.
And we're real-life doctors, which means that after university, we really wanted 4 years of that more.
We study the DNA and we are really interested in how genes influence our life. For example, have you ever noticed that certain traits seem to be passed down from generation to generation? Tall people have sometimes very tall relatives, and certain diseases seem to be running in families.
You see, there are many things that are really in your DNA. Some things are really only determined by a single gene. For instance, have you ever noticed that some people love the taste of coriander? I do. But some people really can't stand it. For them, it tastes like soap or maybe even vomit.
For other things, like height, your risk for heart disease, or whether you easily get sunburned, it's a little more complicated.
Like a lot more complicated.
You see, many of our traits are like the cake we had the other day. You could say it's a combination of multiple ingredients that make it taste so good.
Everything that runs in families can be related to your DNA. For instance, your height, your risk for heart disease, and even some mental illnesses are inherited in some way. We know that genes really make a difference. We just don't know which genes they are and how exactly they act on our traits. For instance, there's not really one single gene that makes you 2 meters tall, or one that makes you really good at school. Just like the cake, it's a combination of ingredients.
In the past, scientists couldn't find the single gene for a specific trait. So they're now mapping all the locations on the DNA that could affect human traits. For instance, geneticists have identified more than 100 genetic variants for eye color and over 12,000 DNA locations that influence your height.
But that doesn't mean that we can predict everything in somebody's life just by looking at their DNA.
Think about the cake. Even with the same ingredients, if you add the ingredients in the wrong order, your cake could be ruined and it wouldn't taste the same at all. Even if you have inherited the many genetic variants that reduce your risk for heart disease, your risk will also depend on your lifestyles. For instance, whether you smoke or not, or if you like exercise.
It's important to understand that your DNA is not your destiny. Genes work with probabilities. So if your DNA doubles your risk for getting a certain disease that occurs in 1% of the population, that still means that you only have a 2% risk of getting the disease. So what's really in your DNA? Some things, definitely. Only in rare occasion will your DNA really affect you, like in the case of coriander. But your DNA will not fully predict things like your profession or your music preference later in life. For those things, your lifestyle and your environment are much more important.